I raised her. That's my daughter. I overheard them. From where I stood in the stairwell in my pajamas, I could see them. They probably thought I was asleep. But I wasn't. My father stood there utterly broken, but dignified. Those unforgettable words will stay with me for the rest of my life, because this was how I became the emotional casualty of everybody else's choices. My name is Claire Maddox. For 28 years, I believed Michael Maddox was my father. I never questioned it. Not once. He was there for everything. My first day at school, my first heartbreak, my graduation, my hospital stay when I was 12, every birthday and every Christmas, every moment that mattered. He was not just present, he was steady, safe, mine. And then one night, one message sent to my mother's phone destroyed the life I thought I knew. Welcome to episode 1 titled The Man That Raised Me. Please like, share and subscribe to support the growth of our YouTube channel and our YouTube family. Leave us a comment below to let us know where you're watching us from. It happened at a political fundraiser in London. My father stood beside me in a black tuxedo, smiling for the cameras like he had done 1,000 times before. Michael Maddox was good at that, smiling when the room expected strength, standing tall when people were waiting for weakness. He was a politician, a respected one, loved by the public, feared by some, admired by many, but to me, he was simply my dad, my father, the man that raised me. He placed his hand gently on my back as another donor approached us. "This is my daughter," he said proudly. "My greatest achievement." I smiled. "And look at my dad," he smiled back at me proudly. He meant it. I had heard him say that before. But that night, for some reason, my mother looked away. My mother, Barbara Maddox, stood across the room in a silver dress, holding a glass of champagne she had barely touched. She looked beautiful. She always did. But there was something different about my mother that evening. Her smile was too tight. Her hands were restless. Her eyes kept moving toward the same man, Daniel Hahn, the billionaire philanthropist, my father's biggest political supporter, my godfather, the man who had been around our family for as long as I could remember. Daniel stood near the back of the room, calm and elegant, surrounded by people who wanted his money, his influence, or his approval. But he was not looking at them. He was looking at me. Not proudly, not kindly, strangely. Like a man looking at something he had lost, or something he believed belonged to him. I looked away first. I wish I had not noticed, because once I noticed, I could not stop noticing. That night, after the fundraiser, my mother disappeared upstairs before anyone else. I heard her heels moving quickly across the marble floor. Then silence. My father stayed in his study. Daniel Hahn left without saying goodbye to me. That was unusual. He always said goodbye. He would always hug me and kiss my cheek. That night was different. Always called me my brilliant Claire. But that night he left like a man escaping something. I was about to go to bed when I heard my mother's phone vibrate. Not once, 3 times. She had left it on the hallway table. I should have ignored it. I know that now. But something about the way it lit up in the dark made me stop. Unknown number. The first message said, "Tell your husband the truth." My chest tightened. The second message appeared before I could breathe. Or I will. Then came the third. A photograph, my mother, younger, standing outside a hotel room. Daniel Hahn opening the door. I froze. For a few seconds, I told myself there had to be an explanation. There is always an explanation when you are desperate enough to need one. Business meeting, old event, political conference, anything. Then another message came through. Your daughter Claire deserves the truth. She's old enough. Tell her or I will. That was when I heard my mother behind me. Claire? Her voice was barely a whisper. I turned around. Her face had gone pale, not embarrassed, not angry, terrified. I looked down at the phone, then back at her. Mum. She reached for the phone, but her hand was shaking. Give it to me. I did not move. Who sent this? She swallowed. I don't know. Why are they saying I deserve the truth? Her eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. That silence was my first answer. The next morning, everything in our house felt different. My father sat at the breakfast table reading the newspaper. My mother sat opposite him, untouched coffee in front of her. They spoke like strangers pretending to be married. Are you going to Westminster today? She asked. Yes, he said. What time will you be back? Late. That was all. No warmth and no argument, just cold politeness. I watched them both. For the first time in my life, I saw the distance between them. Not a new distance, an old one. Something that had been living quietly in our home for years. I just had not known where to look. My father folded the newspaper and looked at me. You're quiet this morning. I forced a smile. Just tired, Dad, I said with a light smile on my face. He studied my face. My father, Michael Maddox, always knew when I was lying. But that morning, he let me keep the lie. Maybe because he was keeping one too. By midday, my mother left the house. No driver, no security, no explanation. I followed her. I do not know what possessed me. Maybe fear, maybe instinct. Maybe the small voice inside me that already knew the truth was bigger than one photograph. She went to a private members club in Mayfair. I waited outside in a taxi. 20 minutes later, a woman arrived. Tall, sharp suit, dark hair pulled back, calm face. Evelyn Park, Daniel Hahn's executive personal assistant. I had met Evelyn many times before. She was always polite, always composed, always watching. She had the kind of presence that made you feel she knew more than she said. My mother stood when Evelyn entered. They did not hug. They did not smile. They sat across from each other like two women negotiating survival. I could not hear them from outside. But I saw my mother crying, and Evelyn did not comfort her. Not once. She simply opened her handbag, took out a slim envelope, and placed it on the table. My mother stared at it like it was a weapon. Then Evelyn leaned forward and said something. My mother shook her head. Evelyn said it again. This time my mother covered her mouth. That was when I knew. Whatever secret had entered our home, Evelyn Park was holding part of it. That evening, I confronted my mother. She was in her bedroom, sitting at the edge of the bed. The curtains were closed. The room smelled of perfume and panic. Tell me what's going on, I said. She looked up slowly. Claire, please. No, don't Claire please me. My voice cracked. I saw the messages. She closed her eyes. I saw you with Evelyn Park. That made her look at me. Fear again, sharp and immediate. You followed me? Yes. You shouldn't have done that. And you shouldn't be lying to me. She stood. For a moment I thought she would shout. Instead, she whispered, There are things you don't understand. Then explain them. No. She looked toward the door as if my father might appear there. Then she said the sentence that changed the temperature of the room. Your father can never know. I stared at her. My father? She looked away. That was when something inside me went cold. Mum! She started crying. And I knew. Before she said another word, I knew. Because the truth does not always arrive as information. Sometimes it arrives as a silence your body understands before your mind does. Later that night, I heard my parents arguing. Their bedroom door was not fully closed. My father's voice was low, controlled, dangerous. How long, Barbara? My mother was crying. Michael, please. How long? Silence. Then he said it, the sentence that broke me. Tell me she's mine. I stopped breathing. The hallway seemed to tilt beneath me. My mother said nothing. My father laughed once. Not because anything was funny, because something inside him had finally collapsed. All these years, he said. All these years I asked you one question. Just one. And you let me raise another man's child? I stepped back. My hand went to my mouth. Another man's child. I wanted to run into the room and I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him I was his, that I had always been his, that whatever my mother had done, it did not erase 28 years of bedtime stories, school runs, birthday cakes, hospital chairs, proud speeches, and quiet sacrifices. But I could not move. Then my father said something I will never forget. "She is my daughter." His voice broke. "I don't care what you did. I don't care what blood says. I raised her." My mother sobbed, and I stood outside their door, falling apart in silence. The next morning the story broke, not fully and not clearly, just enough to poison everything. A political blog published a blind item about a senior politician, his wife, a billionaire donor, and a daughter whose paternity was being questioned. No names, but everyone knew. By lunchtime, journalists were outside our house. By evening, my father's office had issued a statement calling the rumours false, malicious, and defamatory. But my father did not come home. My mother locked herself in her room. Daniel Hahn's office denied any personal involvement, and Evelyn Park vanished from public view. That night, I received a message from an unknown number. It contained only 5 words. "Ask your mother about Jamaica." I stared at the screen. Jamaica? What did Jamaica have to do with my family? What did it have to do with me? I called my mother. No answer. Then I called my father. No answer. Then, finally, I called Daniel Hahn. He answered on the second ring. "Claire." His voice was soft, too soft. "Did you know?" I asked. Silence. "Did you know I might be your daughter?" He did not deny it. That silence was another answer. Then he said, "You need to come to me before they get to you." My skin went cold. "Who is they?" Before he could answer, my mother burst into my room. Her face was white. The television was on downstairs. Breaking news. I followed her into the living room. My father was standing there already, still in yesterday's shirt. Eyes fixed on the screen, the newsreader's voice filled the room. Evelyn Park, executive personal assistant to billionaire philanthropist Daniel Hahn, has been found dead in a luxury hotel room in Jamaica. My mother made a sound I had never heard before. Not a scream, not a cry. Something worse. A sound of recognition. My father turned slowly to look at her. "What did you do, Barbara?" She shook her head. "No." He stepped closer. "What did you do?" The screen changed. A photograph of Evelyn appeared. Then footage of a Jamaican hotel. Then the headline, "Unexplained Death in Montego Bay." My phone vibrated again. Unknown number. One new message. Evelyn was going to tell you everything. I looked at my mother, then at my father, then at the television. And that was the moment I understood. My mother's affair was not the secret. My paternity was not the scandal. Those were only the beginning. Someone had started pulling threads from our family. And now people were dying. I looked at Michael Maddox, the man who raised me, the man whose blood I may not have carried, the man whose heart I had broken without even knowing. And I knew one thing for certain. Whatever truth was coming, I was not ready for it. But it was already coming for me. The first time I saw the photographs of Evelyn Park's hotel room, I stopped breathing. Not because of the blood. There was no blood. Not really. Not because of the champagne bottles, or the syringes, or the white hotel bathtub where they found her body. It was because of her shoes. One pair of gold heels stood neatly beside the bed. The other pair, the black ones, were lying near the bathroom door. As if she had changed her mind halfway through the night. As if she had returned to that room for one small reason. One ordinary reason? A woman's reason. Her feet hurt, she wanted different shoes. And somehow, that was the decision that led her back to death. Welcome to episode 2 of this story titled 12 Hours in Jamaica. Please like, share and subscribe to support the growth of our YouTube channel and YouTube family. Before Jamaica, Evelyn Park was not a woman people noticed for long. Not because she was forgettable. She was the opposite. She was too controlled, too polished, too quiet, and very professional. People remembered Daniel Hahn. They remembered his money, his private jets, his hospitals, his charity foundations, his soft voice, his dangerous calm. But Evelyn? Evelyn stood just behind him, always with the schedule, always with the phone, always with the file, always with the truth. My mother once told me, never underestimate a woman who says little in rooms full of powerful men. At the time, I thought she was talking about herself. Now I know. She was talking about Evelyn. Evelyn Park knew everything. She knew where Daniel Hahn slept, who he paid, who he threatened, who he protected, who he loved, and who he owned. She knew which journalists were friendly, which politicians were useful, which bank accounts were clean, and which ones were not. She knew about my mother. She knew about my father. She knew about me, and that was why she had to die. At least, that is what I believe now. Jamaica had been her dream. That was what Daniel Hahn told the police. He said Evelyn had always wanted to visit the Caribbean islands. He said she used to talk about the islands like a child describing heaven. Turquoise water, warm nights, music in the streets, soft sand, fresh mango, fresh fruits. In Jamaica, everything was organic and safe to eat. She loved the Jamaican accent, the cruise ships, sunsets that looked painted by God himself. So for her birthday, Daniel paid for everything. First-class flights, a luxury hotel suite in Montego Bay, private dinner, a cruise ship tour around the island, guests flown in, champagne, flowers, security, everything. On paper, it looked generous. Beautiful, even. But powerful men rarely give gifts without meaning, especially men like Daniel Hahn. Sometimes a gift is affection. Sometimes it is guilt. And sometimes it is a cage wrapped in silk ribbon. My mother was invited. Barbara Maddox, Daniel Hahn's former lover, my father's wife, the woman whose secret had begun destroying all of us. But she did not go. That detail stayed with me. Why would Daniel invite my mother to Evelyn's birthday? And why would my mother refuse? She told the police she had a prior engagement, a charity dinner in London. That was a lie. There was no charity dinner. There was only my mother, alone in her bedroom, staring at her phone like it had become a loaded gun. Because by then the messages had already started. Tell your husband the truth, or I will. Claire deserves the truth. And then, ask your mother about Jamaica. Evelyn arrived in Jamaica 2 days before she died. Hotel staff said she was polite, quiet, beautifully dressed, not warm exactly, but respectful. She tipped generously. She asked for extra towels. She requested lime water instead of champagne. Then she stood on the balcony of her suite for almost 20 minutes, looking at the sea. A maid later told investigators she looked happy, but not peaceful. I understood that. There is a difference. Happiness can sit on your face. Fear lives behind the eyes. That evening, Evelyn had dinner with 6 guests, 3 women, 2 men, and 1 security aide from Daniel Hahn's private team. Daniel himself was not there. That was the first strange thing. He had paid for everything, organized everything, sent flowers, sent champagne, sent a handwritten card, but he did not attend. His card read, "Happy birthday, Evelyn. You deserve the world. D.H." Evelyn stared at the card for a long time. Then she folded it, placed it in her clutch bag, and said nothing. The next day was the cruise. White boat, blue water, music, laughter. Tourists dancing in linen shirts and sunglasses. Evelyn wore a cream dress and large, dark glasses. In the photos, she looked elegant, almost free. But when I studied those photographs later, I noticed something. In every picture, Evelyn was watching someone, not smiling, watching, as if she was not there to celebrate, as if she was waiting for danger to reveal itself. By sunset, the cruise returned to shore. The birthday party continued at the hotel. Music played near the pool. Guests danced. Drinks moved from hand to hand. Evelyn laughed more than usual. Witnesses said she drank champagne, then rum punch, then something clear from a small glass. But Evelyn Park was not careless. She worked for Daniel Hahn. Careless people did not survive around him. So when the police later said there was too much alcohol in her blood, I did not believe that was the whole story. Not Evelyn. Not a woman who built her life on control. At 11:47 p.m., Evelyn left the party. The official report said she returned to her room to change her shoes. Her gold heels were hurting her, a normal thing, a small thing. The kind of thing no one thinks matters until it becomes the last decision of your life. Hotel CCTV showed her walking through the corridor alone. She held the wall once, not drunk, unsteady. There is a difference. She reached her door, opened it, stepped inside, and paused. That pause haunted me, because it was only 2 seconds. But 2 seconds can be enough for the body to know what the mind is not ready to accept. Something was wrong. The room was cool. Too cool for what happened next. Her life was snuffed out like a cigarette. Earlier that evening, Jamaica had been hot and humid. Evelyn had left the balcony window open before going downstairs. She remembered doing it. She remembered the curtains moving in the night breeze. But now, the window was closed. The curtains were still. The air smelled faintly of cleaning products. And something else. Something sharp, medicinal. She stood by the door, listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no breathing, no movement. Just the soft hum of the air conditioning. She told herself it was housekeeping, maybe hotel security, maybe someone had closed the window because of insects. Maybe she was tired. Maybe she had drunk too much. That is what fear does when it first arrives. It tries to sound reasonable. Then she noticed the flowers. The white orchids Daniel had sent were no longer on the table near the balcony. They were beside the mirror. Her suitcase was closed, but she had left it open. Her phone charger had been moved from the bed to the desk. One drawer was slightly open. Not enough to accuse anyone, just enough to disturb her. Evelyn stood very still. Then she whispered, "No." One word. Small, but full of understanding. She knew. Someone had been inside her room, and whoever it was had not come for jewelry. She walked to the wardrobe, opened it, took out the black heels. Her hands were shaking now. She sat on the edge of the bed and changed her shoes. Gold heels off, black heels on. That was when her phone vibrated. Unknown number. One message. "You should have left when you had the chance." Evelyn stared at the screen. Then another message came. "Do not give Claire the files." Claire, my name, in Jamaica, in Evelyn Park's hotel room, before I even knew she was dead. Back in London, at almost the same time, I was standing in my family living room watching my mother fall apart. My father was watching the news. Evelyn Park had been found dead. Daniel Hahn was not answering questions. And my mother looked like she had seen a ghost. I turned to her. "What files?" She looked at me. "What?" The message said Evelyn was going to tell me everything. My mother stepped back. "You got a message?" "Yes." My father turned sharply. "From who?" "I don't know." Silence. Then my mother whispered, "Claire, give me your phone." "No." "Give me the phone." "No." My father moved between us. "Barbara." She looked at him desperate. "You don't understand." He laughed bitterly. I'm beginning to think I never understood anything. Then he looked at me, and there it was again. The pain, the love, the question he was too broken to ask. Was I still his daughter? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say it loudly enough to silence every DNA test in the world. But grief had closed my throat. So I said nothing. And sometimes silence hurts the people we love more than lies. Daniel Hahn called me at 2:16 a.m. I should not have answered, but I did. Claire, he said. His voice was calm, too calm for a man whose closest assistant had just died. What did Evelyn know? I asked. He paused. Where is your mother? Do not ask me about my mother. She is in danger. So am I. Another pause. Then he said, Yes. I gripped the phone tighter. Are you protecting me, Daniel? He exhaled slowly. I have always protected you. That answer chilled me, because it sounded loving, and controlling, and guilty, all at once. Did you know about the messages? I asked. He did not answer quickly enough. You knew? I knew someone was threatening your mother. Who? I don't know. Liar. His voice changed then, not louder, lower. Claire, listen to me very carefully. Evelyn was supposed to come back from Jamaica and meet you. I stopped breathing. Meet me? Yes. Why? She had something for you. What? The truth. I closed my eyes. The truth. Everyone kept saying that word like it was a gift. But every truth I had received so far had only taken something from me. In Jamaica at 12:06 a.m., Evelyn made a call. Not to Daniel, not to hotel security, not to the police. To Barbara Maddox, my mother. The call lasted 19 seconds. 19 seconds. Long enough to beg, long enough to warn, long enough to say a name. But my mother later swore she did not answer. She said she saw the missed call the next morning. Another lie. Phone records showed the call connected. 19 seconds. So what did Evelyn say? And why did my mother pretend she never heard it? At 12:14 a.m., CCTV showed another figure on Evelyn's floor. Female, young, Korean, approximately 24 years old. She wore a white blouse, dark trousers, hair tied back, no luggage, no visible hotel key. She walked like someone who knew where the cameras were, head slightly down, face partly turned, not panicked, not lost. Purposeful, she entered the corridor near Evelyn's suite. Then the camera glitched. For 43 seconds, the footage froze. When it returned, the corridor was empty. The woman was gone. By the time Jamaican police identified her as a suspect, she had already left the island. Arrival time, 7:42 p.m. Departure time, 7:51 a.m. Total time in Jamaica, 12 hours. No real passport. No hotel booking, no return destination under her real name. It was as if she had flown into paradise, carried out a task, and disappeared before the sun could expose her. But here is what I could not stop thinking about. If the Korean woman killed Evelyn, why was the room staged so badly? Why leave the syringes? Why leave the drugs? Why make it look like a reckless accident when Evelyn was anything but reckless? Unless the point was not to create a perfect lie. Unless the point was to create confusion. A death with too many explanations becomes harder to solve. Alcohol, drugs, accident, suicide, murder, scandal. Every version protects someone. Every version buries the truth a little deeper. The next morning, Evelyn Park was found in the bathtub. The water had gone cold. Her black heels were still on her feet. That detail broke something in me. Because she never made it back to the party. She never danced. She never finished her birthday. She never gave me the files. The official statement called it an unexplained death. Daniel Hahn's office requested privacy. My mother stopped speaking. My father moved into the guest room. And I began to understand that my family had not been destroyed by one affair. It had been built beside something rotten, something powerful, something old. 2 days after Evelyn died, a package arrived at my flat. No sender, no return address. Inside was a flash drive, an old photograph, and a handwritten note. The photograph showed my mother years ago, younger, beautiful, standing beside Daniel Hahn at a private event. His hand rested at the small of her back, too intimate, too familiar. But that was not what made my blood run cold. Behind them, Half hidden in the background stood Evelyn Park, watching, always watching. The handwritten note said, "Your mother lied to everyone, but your real father lied worst of all." I stared at the words. Your real father. Which one? Michael? The man who raised me? Daniel? The man who might have made me? Or someone else entirely? My hands shook as I plugged in the flash drive. There was one video file. No title, just a date. The night before Evelyn died. I pressed play. Evelyn appeared on screen. She was sitting in her hotel room in Jamaica, still wearing the cream dress from the cruise. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes were terrified. She looked toward the door, then back at the camera. Her voice was low. "If you are watching this..." She swallowed. Then they finally decided to erase me. A sound came from somewhere off screen. Evelyn froze, then she leaned closer to the camera. "Claire, listen carefully." My heart stopped. She knew my name. She knew this video would find me. She was speaking to me. "There are 3 lies in your family. One about your mother, one about Daniel Hahn, and one about Michael Maddox." My breath caught. Michael? No, not him. Not my father. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "I am sorry." Then she whispered, "The DNA test was never the truth." Before she could say anything else, the screen went black. And behind me, someone knocked on my door. 3 slow knocks. I sat frozen, the flash drive still in my hand. Then my phone vibrated. Unknown number. One message. "Do not open the door, Claire.